Hey YouTube, Ralph is here, and today we're going to do a Flashback Friday, looking back at some old games, usually older, sometimes newer, just talk about them a little bit. Um, Today's sample is going to be Breath of Fire 4. Breath of Fire 5 Dragon Quarter. Confusing name. It's a quarter, but it's Breath of Fire 5. It's part of the old RPG series that I mentioned in a previous video. Kind of a just slightly below Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and all that kind of stuff. Very good RPG series that hasn't been continued for a while. And the core conceit of the Breath of Fire series is the main character turns into a dragon and wrecks stuff, kind of like his own portable Final Fantasy summons. Now, the interesting thing about Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter is it's a contentious game in the series because while it's a good game, they did do something that you probably should be careful about doing in any games. Is now the core conceit and the core appeal of the series is main character turns into a dragon. You have cool characters like that doing stuff. They went pretty experimental with Dragon Quarter. Now Dragon Quarter, now it instead of just turning into a dragon at any time with basically just like an MP cost or like a cooldown or limit or something like that, they instead made it a core conceit of the entire game that you can basically trivialize any boss fight, any fight at all, by turning into a dragon and just destroying everything. But if you use that power too much before the end of the game, your dragon meter fills up completely, you lose control of the dragon inside of you, you lose your humanity, and it's game over. So it's like it almost punishes you for using it, but it also gives you a get out of jail free if you run into a really, really, really hard fight a few times in the game. I don't remember exactly how many times you can do it. It really depends on how many dragon abilities you use and everything. No. Apologies. Now, one of the things that people especially disliked about this is that just walking in the game slowly raised your dragon meter. Now, over the course of the entire game, like 48 hours, it was like 3% or something. But just the fact that just walking raised your dragon meter put like a mental pressure on people. And I think that was kind of the intent is like, hey, you're supposed to get through the story and you're supposed to get through the game because you are a ticking time bomb. And I think it's honestly it's a very good conceit for an RPG. Uh, but the problem is it does put that cognitive dissonance on the player to where they want to use the cool, powerful stuff, but if you use it, you will eventually lose if you overuse it. And I think maybe they should have done it in chunks to where, like in chapters, like you have so much that you can use in a chapter, and then you get like a rest, and then your recuperation kind of allows you to get control of it, or a story event kind of like resets your control of it so that you go back down to zero. So it's more like it's not over; it's over until the end of the next chapter. If I can just hang in there until then, I get the dragon abilities back instead of like a constantly looming guillotine over your head where you're just waiting for the shoe to drop and then you lose the game. That being said, Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter is a fantastic game. It is a good RPG, and like the core conceit of like you need to like bottle up this power inside of you or it will take over you. I think that's a really good core conceit. Um, Now, also, it did another really highly experimental take, which it's very early in the timeline for these types of games, and not really done with RPGs, is basically a roguelite. Because every time that you lost the game, you started over from the beginning, and depending on how far you got and all the things that you accomplished and everything, uh, you got like bonus XP and items to start with, and then you also like raised a kind of a meter to where additional lore and side quests and stuff would unlock. So you were kind of expected to lose a few times before you beat the game. But every time that you lose, you would start out stronger, get to get through things faster, and get more story and everything as a reward. So you weren't starting back from zero, nowhere close to it. And so, like, both of these were big experimental swings taken in an existing series, and the game is really, really good for them. But because it's an existing series, like, you're fighting your own fan base at some point. Because, like, the game series is about going in there to be the powerful dragon guy in RPGs, savior of the world, kind of, JRPG stuff. And then saying, no, 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 bad. You can't use the dragon stuff as much as you want because if you do, you'll lose. And then it's like, oh, I was like, okay, well that's like what the entire series has been based around up until now. So it's a storyline about the dragon guy and using his dragon powers, and like obviously struggling with the dragon powers and controlling them has been part of it, but like not to the point of, hey, you will lose if you use these. So that was so it's very I see both sides of it, I guess I could say. It's like on one hand, as a fan of the series, you're like, this is not what I wanted from the series. A lot of people felt that way. But on the other hand, as a fan of RPGs, it's like it's a great RPG that does cool stuff. And it's like, oh, man, and you kind of want it to be its own standalone game, but then the actual series is perfect for it because the power of the dragon inside of you, the man versus beast, as far as your like instincts, I guess literally fighting your lizard brain. So it's a perfect vehicle for that type of game, and unfortunately, that because you had that clash, like it did get more mixed reception to where some people were able to like step out of the pocket of the series and be like, hey, I will accept this as it is, and then appreciate it as the game it is. And then other people were fairly enough like, no, I bought this series to get what this series delivers, and you did not give me what this series was supposed to deliver. And so that's unfortunate. Also unfortunate, like the rest of the Breath of Fire series, you basically can't find it to play anywhere. Like there's no PC version of it that I know of. Um, like they don't really have a good modern place to buy it. And as always with this kind of situation, I'm never going to recommend piracy, but I will say that if the developers do not give a equitable solution for purchasing something both easily and within a reasonable price range, that the market will adjust and figure out ways. And I will not look down on people for doing that. Also, as far as game preservation goes, I think that is a real issue when things are just kind of like locked in their own little box. And granted, this is an older game, right? So like it was back in maybe like PS1, PS2 era. I try to do these off the cuff. I'm not doing like thoroughly researched things because the whole point is I'm remembering things and we're flashing back to them and saying, hey, this was a cool thing. Um, but yeah, it was back in the day before things really started cross pollinating with PC and everything. So a little bit harder to save, but anyways, Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter. If you happen to have it or you know a friend that has it, I highly recommend playing it or at least looking at like a playthrough of it or something. The idea of a roguelite RPG like was not something I ever considered before playing that game, and like starting over and getting new story bits, I was excited for that. I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty hard. Game over. I lost, and then it's like, wait, that losing's expected. You start over with gear and XP and everything that you distribute. You get to kind of choose, like, I guess I think it was a point system. And then you get more story in it, lore and everything. I was like, oh, cool. So it almost like kind of rewards you for like taking multiple shots at it rather than just trying to like white knuckle through and like be the hard fight and everything. So That's it for this Flashback Friday. It's a game that has stuck with me all of these years. I hope we see a remake or another game like it. I would love to see like the roguelite RPG system kind of thing done like that again. I would love to see the core conceit of like the I have to not use this ridiculous power that I have. You can use a little bit, but if you use it too much, you lose. Maybe they can tweak that to where it won't feel quite as punishing people like psychologically and mentally, so that they will like it a little bit more. But personally, I think it was great. That's it for me today. Thank you for watching.